cannot keep on separated.
Hey everybody, welcome to the history of FMW. This is going to be episode number 20. We are going to be covering the first half of 1999. Just to catch up, at the end of the last show, Onita was officially banished from FMW, and he had formed his own little minor company, and he was starting some feuds with their companies in Japan. And this culminates with our first little talking point. On January 4th, 1999, New Japan, they held their... now, this wasn't called the Wrestle Kingdom yet, right?
No, that didn't start till 2007.
Okay, so this was just the general New Japan Tokyo Dome show that they would hold each year on January 4th. Now, if you want to just go down it, what was Onita's involvement on this show?
Yeah, so he had a match with Kensuke Sasaki, and it was based off of him coming into the ring back on November 18th and challenging Riki Choshu. That's the match he wanted. He wanted the match with Riki Choshu, and Choshu was retired at this point. So it was kind of one of those, let's go with Choshu's student, Kensuke Sasaki, and it's also to build up the feud. And again, Choshu's retired at this point, but it's kind of Onita's into the rainbow. I'll get Choshu to come out of retirement also, and we'll have this dream match and everything. So this was just kind of the first step to it, and to build it up. Yeah, so he had a match with Kensuke Sasaki, just a straight singles match, and the crowd hates Onita. He comes to the ring and he is bombarded with trash. People are throwing trash and everything, and he's just eating it up with a big cheesy smile on his face, cigarette in his mouth. And so this match is not good at all. It goes about 5-6 minutes or so, and Onita does not look good in this match at all. And the end result is Onita getting DQ'd by throwing a fireball. And the reason due to the disqualification was actually because Sasaki did not want a job to Onita. He refused. He wasn't going to lose to Onita. So this was the way to. You can't just bring in Onita and have him job right away. That kills everything right away. So they had Onita do the screw job finish of throwing a fireball at Sasaki's eyes, and the referee calls for the DQ, and that is pretty much the end of the Kensuke Sasaki Onita feud, and Onita has to move on. Has to move on.
So who are the people in the New Japan office that are pushing for Onita, and what are the overall plans for him?
It's right now. So Riki Choshu is the booker, and the plan right now at this point really is just kind of have as many dream matches as possible to sell out stadiums or sell out the dome. So let's have a match, going forward, Masahiro Chono, and I think the end plan at this point was to have a match with Muto. Possibly for the IWGP title, because Muto was the champion at this point. So, but I don't know the exact details. But I think at this point, it was let's just have him have these dream matches with Chono and Muto for the rest of the year, and then eventually it would go down to Choshu the following year. And also a side note was Hayabusa was actually at this show. He was in attendance, just sitting in the crowd watching this show. And when the Onita thing was going down, a bunch of people went up to Hayabusa that were sitting next to him, like, "You need to go. Are you going to go save him? Are you going to go save Onita?" And Hayabusa just laughed and just watched, because he was just there to see how Onita was going to do in New Japan.
And was he there as a guest of the company, or did he buy a ticket?
As far as I know, he bought a ticket, because he was saying he was sitting just with he was just sitting in the crowd and everything. So as far as I know, he bought a ticket. Maybe it was comped or something, but he was sitting in the crowd.
Company. So going on, FMW, they opened up their year on January 5th in Kurokan Hall, and then on January 6th, Fukigun had a show there. So we're gonna go over these two shows, and this will have start a lot of the angles and feuds that are gonna go forward. So if you want to go over what happened on January 5th.
So this show did announce a crowd of 2,050 fans, which that's a low number. It's not a sellout by any means or anything. And going back to just previous episodes, Corrigan was the show where they're supposed to make their money back and everything after losing money touring. Well, Corrigan's supposed to bring the money back. Well, now the money's not coming in as strong. But as far as the matches, the top couple matches were Hayabusa defeated Tetsuhiro Kuroda. This is a really good match. This is probably Kuroda's best match at the time. Kuroda does this spot where he always takes the wrestler to in the crowd and does this running lariat. Well, in this show, Kuroda's about to do that to Hayabusa, and Hayabusa ends up doing a hurricane run in the crowd on Kuroda. And then you see Hayabusa, he jumps on the rail to the crowd and does a moonsault on the outside. And so this is a really good match. And like I said, Kuroda really kind of shows some potential here that he's going forward. They really are high on Kuroda to be one of the top guys going forward. And just it's how they build up guys is you just kind of job to the top guys until you become one of them. And then you had Masato Tanaka. He returned back to FMW and for the first time since leaving in June. And they are going to push Tanaka to the moon here going forward. And he destroys Koji Nakagawa in just 33 seconds. It's just one of those Nakagawa does an exploder. Tanaka no-sells it, pretty much just smashes into the turnbuckle, and then debuts his new finisher, the Diamond Dust, which is you take our opponent to the Tanaka's at the turnbuckle, and then pretty much just does a flip over and kind of like a reverse stunner kind of. And it just finishes Nakagawa off easily. And then the over-the-top finals match has Mr. Ganosuke and Hisagatsu Oya. They had defeated three other wrestlers going forward back in December. So now they're meeting in the finals, and Ganosuke gets the clean win. He's right now still doing the Dark Monk gimmick, and so he ends up defeating Hisagatsu Oya. And it's a good match. It's not anything to go out of your way to see or anything, but it's a good match. And then afterwards, Kanamura, who's still pissed off at Ganosuke for leaving Team No Respect, he attacks Ganosuke right away. Well, then Hideki Osaka, who had been part of the Hayabusa group, who had turned on his partners in the first match of the show, and he now has like this big boss man from the 90s gimmick. He's got this black vest, he's got a nightstick and everything. Well, he comes out and he attacks Kanamura, so now Ganosuke and Hideki Osaka are and Super Leather also joined this group and everything. So Ganosuke's kind of forming his own heel group going forward. And then but then that results in Tetsuhiro Kuroda coming out and Team No Respect coming out. And finally, Masato Tanaka comes out, and it ends up leading to Kuroda challenging Tanaka to the main event of the February Corrigan Hall show. And then for the Fuyuki-gun show, that show did not do very well at all. It announced 1,900, but as far as I've been told, it drew about 1,500. And it's not a very, very good booking situation, but they had Kodo Fuyuki defend his FMW double titles against Hisagatsu Oya. Even though Oya had just lost the day before, and the tournament was to determine who would get a shot at Fuyuki's double titles. Even with Oya losing, he would get the shot at the titles because he had defeated Fuyuki in the tournament the month prior. This show didn't make tape or anything. They just showed highlights and everything. And pretty much the main spot is Oya trying to suplex Fuyuki through a table from the apron. And Fuyuki pretty much ends up bringing Oya with him and landing on top of him. So Oya kind of goes through the table with the big giant Fuyuki going on top of him. And that was pretty much it for Oya. And Fuyuki ends up getting the win. But also on the show, the only other note from the show is that Goito and Jado, who had been injured going back to December or November or so, after the show, they went up to Fuyuki and they announced that they were leaving Team No Respect, and they were just going to become part of the announcing crew for the DirecTV shows. So Goito, who had been the main heel manager for the last 7-8 months or so, and then Jado, they break apart from Team No Respect. So Team No Respect is kind of going in a different direction here going forward as well.
And what was there any reason for Go Ito to leave the group? Like, was that an initiative by the company, the television company?
No, I don't exactly know it. The only thing I can think of is just he was getting overwhelmed, and we'll go over that here in a little while. Is he's getting overwhelmed, and he might not even want to be part of the team anymore, or part of the part of talent anymore. And like I said, he's pretty much just done as the manager at this point. And just going forward, he's just going to be the announcer. But I don't know the exact details on why he stopped doing it.
And this was the last show promoted by Fuyuki Gun. Was there why did they end the company here?
Well, pretty much at this point, we've gone over it in the past where the promotion was just Fuyuki, Jado, and Gedo. That's not very much to kind of have this active promotion and everything. And then you add on top of the shows didn't really draw that well. And then you pretty much Fuyuki is already a part of this company. He's on the booking committee and everything. So there's real no point in him having this separate promotion. And when it's all FMW guys anyway. So Fuyuki would make a deal with Arai to pretty much bring Fuyuki into FMW. So, and Jado and Gedo were just like, hey, Fuyuki pretty much went up to them and were like, hey, you're part of FMW now. I made a deal with Arai. We're all FMW wrestlers now going forward. And so Jado and Gedo didn't even really want to be FMW wrestlers. They kind of felt like, this is the hand-me-down. You're just taking us in because our promotion's not doing that well. And, that eliminated them from doing freelance work as well. So, it was just a decision that Fuyuki made because the shows weren't doing well. And like I said, he was pretty much just an FMW wrestler at this point. Like this show here on January 6th, it was all FMW talent. So, it might as well just get your own regular paycheck, from FMW going forward instead of having this freelance, I'll get paid when I work this show and this show and everything. And again, when your shows are not making that much money, you might as well just abandon ship and just get on board a company that's willing to pay you regularly.
Now, going over really quickly. So on January 10th, ECCW, they held the Guilty as Charged show. This is where Taz finally beat Shane Douglas for the title. Masato Tanaka, he was advertised for this show in some of the early stuff for it, but obviously he was never on the show. And as we covered the previous show, the relationship between the two companies had gotten pretty sour. Was there any chance of him ever being on this show?
No, this was in between tours and everything with FMW. FMW ran a show on January 9th, and then they ran the next show on January 11th. And he was advertised for these shows, so there was no way he was going to attend the show, in America between tours and everything. And FMW wasn't going to let him just leave the tour when he was announced for shows going forward. So I think Paul Heyman had told Dave Meltzer, he was supposed to be on the show. He was going. We just had visa issues and everything. That's why. And but Paul Heyman's a liar and everything. I don't think there was ever any intention for Tanaka to actually ever be on this show, on the Guilty as Charged show. And, they just ended up having to at this point, the relationship was over as well. They didn't work together for another 9 months. And we went over it last episode. FMW was really upset over Chris Candido and Tammy Sitch and Bam Bam Bigelow no showing, and it just did not. And then, again, going back to Tanaka, they didn't feel Tanaka got paid the way he should have as well in ECW. So it's just a whole bunch of things, and they just needed a break from each other at this point. And again, the whole idea originally was Tanaka is going to be in ECW until 1999, or at the start of the year he's coming back to FMW. That was the original plan. So there was no reason for FMW to hey, okay, Tanaka, you could stay even longer than the deal that we planned, when we're kind of upset at ECW for what they, for the no-shows and for how low they were paying you and stuff like that.
Okay. And then, so going on January 16th, All Japan, they opened their tour at Kurokan Hall, and Hayabusa, he teamed with Jinsei Shinzaki on this show, and then he went on to have a lot more matches with the company throughout the year. If you want to just go over, how was his stay with the company at this time?
Yeah, so pretty much, we went over a couple episodes ago that he was touring with All Japan there. He did the Real World Tag Team Tournament with Jinsei Shinzaki, and eventually he worked, after he finished the tour in '97, the Real World Tag Tournament. He didn't work any other shows for All Japan until he did the Tokyo Dome on May 1st, and then after that, he was done with All Japan, and that was simply because Hayabusa was now the double titles champion, and FMW did not want him losing, and he was going to lose if he was going to continue with All Japan tour, separate touring and everything like that in some matches. If they were going to put him against Misawa or Kawada or something like that, and FMW didn't really want that happening. So as double titles champion, they kind of steered away from him losing and participating on those shows. And so after he lost the double titles to Fuyuki in November, they come up with this plan. All Japan goes, if Hayabusa comes back, we're going to let him win the All Japan, All Asian tag titles, which is the secondary titles in All Japan. But it's still a title that's been around 50, 60 years. And it's still, hey, Hayabusa, an outside wrestler, is winning an All Japan title, which is still a big deal at this time. So the deal pretty much was that they were to lose to, I believe it was Taman Honda and Jun Izumida on January 16th, Hayabusa and Shinzaki. In this match, Shinzaki gets busted open real bad here. He's bleeding a lot, and so Taman Honda and Izumida end up winning this match, and then that leads to a match on February 13th where Hayabusa and Shinzaki, and it's a pretty good match. I mean, and Honda and Izumida are not good workers by any means, and it's still a pretty good match. And then so they end up getting Hayabusa and Shinzaki end up getting the win, and this also allows for FMW to have an All Japan, All Asian tag title match on their show. So I think that also helped FMW kind of agree to it, because that was that would help them draw on a future show. And so Hayabusa and Shinzaki would hold those titles up until June. Hayabusa would also participate in a junior heavyweight match on May 2nd, 1999 at the Tokyo Dome, and he had it was Hayabusa, Great Sasuke, and Tiger Mask against Yoshinori Agawa. I'm forgetting the other two people. I think Monike Mossman, maybe Makoto Hashi, thinking, and then and that's just a 30-minute draw. It's a good match, but not by no means a classic or anything as well. But it's so no one would job. That's pretty much, let's go to a time limit, so nobody's jobbing in this match, so no one's upset. And then and we'll go into it later, FMW and All Japan, they cut deals. They're no longer going to work together after May, and so they have Hayabusa and Shinzaki drop the titles to Yoshihiro Takayama and Takeo Amori, Team No Fear, and that's a really June 4th, and that's a really good match. It's probably the best Hayabusa match in All Japan after 1997. It's a really good match. I would recommend watching that match or finding that match. It's one of the better matches, like I said, and Hayabusa ends up taking the loss, and pretty much that was it for Hayabusa working in All Japan. After that, that pretty much ended the deal. He was actually going to work in All Japan again in 2001, but he would end up getting injured the week before he would return.
All right. And yeah, we will talk about that split more, because I have a lot of questions about it when we get there. Going forward, on January 17th, Tenryu and Onita, they had a dinner that was kind of, it was talked about in the magazines and the press. What was the deal of these two having a dinner, and what was the goal set forth by them?
Well, back in 1995, the War and FMW under Onita, their relationship ended after Onita ended up double booking Goto. He promised War would get Tarzan Goto for a War show, and then he had an FMW show the same day, and the sponsor of the FMW show really wanted Tarzan Goto, so Onita had to listen to the sponsor and pull Goto from the War show. Well, then Tenryu, and right after that, Onita retired. Tenryu held a grudge towards Onita as a result, but like I said, Onita retired right afterwards, and so there was no reason for Onita to even think about Tenryu after that. So 2 years go by, and why even bother talking to Tenryu? There's, he's mad at me. I don't care. And then we go into 1999, where now Onita's kind of, he has his own promotion. He started up his own promotion. Tenryu is still running War at this time, and Tenryu has a Yokohama Bunka Gym show in March. And so they come up with the deal of, okay, we're both draws. We'll both help draw our shows. So Onita, if you work my Yokohama Bunka Gym show in March, I'll work your June, I'll work your June Corrigan Hall show in a barbed wire match and everything. When we'll in a tag match and everything. So we'll help each other out. So it was just kind of let's put the past behind us and let's work together to help our companies out.
What is Onita's stock like now that he's left FMW? Like, is he a big draw that's worth it for these companies to kind of be courting him?
Yeah, he's still a draw, especially, again, he's kind of remade himself and everything. He ditched the Team Zero gear where he has like this American football jersey and everything. He's ditched that. Now he's in the jeans and he's got the black jacket. I mean, it's pretty much, people know Onita for two looks. The white singlet and the blue tights that say Onita, and that's the FMW Onita. And then there's the after Onita phase, and that's his black jacket, leather jacket, and the jeans and the cigarette and everything. And so this is brand new. This is his new image and everything. And so he is drawing attention. He's still in the magazine covers and everything, and especially now with the New Japan thing, working Tokyo Dome and everything. He is still a draw at this point, enough to deal with him or bring him in, or a company like War they're on their last legs anyway, so they need something new to spice things up.
On a sad note, at the end of January, on January 31st, Giant Baba, he passed away from cancer. This is, he's tied for the second most influential figure in Japanese wrestling, along with Inoki. He was Onita's trainer. Is there any notes to say about the relationship between Onita and Baba?
Nothing that we haven't already covered. I think Baba wasn't the biggest fan in the world of Onita, kind of creating FMW afterwards. But there was nothing he could do. Like I've said in the past, Baba made Onita retire. He had, okay, you're not very good anymore after your injury, you're out of here. And then Onita retired, and then and Baba did pay him a good deal of money to retire, but Onita went through that money, and then he had to start back up and everything, and that's when he created FMW. And like I said, I think Baba couldn't. It was one of those, like, I'm not going to publicly curse Onita out for what he did, but it's kind of one of those. He's supposed to have gone away. He was supposed to retire, and I gave him the retirement money and everything. And so, they didn't. And Onita had wanted to work with All Japan around this time period. Instead of New Japan, he offered his services to All Japan, but Baba didn't want Onita coming back or anything like that. So. Onita loved Baba. It was his father figure pretty much growing up and everything. So I'm sure Onita would have wanted them to be on better terms, but it's not something I think that haunts him or anything like that.
Going on, New Japan, they held a show at the Budokan on February 14th. What involvement did Onita have on the show? He
this pretty much to set up future matches. And so the Kensuke Sasaki feud is pretty much over at this point, and he now wants a match with Masahiro Chono, and he wants an exploding barbed wire match at the next show, next Tokyo Dome show, and then he also wants the IWGP title match with Keiji Muto, who was the champion at the time. So it was just kind of set up future matches going forward with him.
Now, before this, it was announced. It was kind of leaked to the press that Onita would be on the show doing a type of a run-in. Why was this leaked rather than keeping it completely shocking?
I think just to help possibly draw again. New Japan's getting kind of, they're taking the hit as well. Every company's taking the hit, and so it's kind of one of those, hey, Onita's still a draw. He's going to show up if you want to come to the show. And, Budokan's a pretty big building. If he's going to be at the show, if you want to see him appear, it's not a surprise. It's not going to be a surprise, but about it, so you might want to come. Something like that to help try and draw as much interest as possible for the show.
And when Onita does these appearances and he's issuing the challenges, how much of it is scripted and varied by the books, and how much of it is Onita just running wild?
It's all scripted. It's all decided what's going to happen. He's not going to be able to get away with that in New Japan. But the thing is a lot of the wrestlers really don't like Onita. Like, these matches are coming. Muto is not a fan of Onita. He's still upset from Onita stealing his Muta gimmick and doing the Great Nita back in 1994 and making money off that when it was his idea. So Muto's not particularly a big fan of Onita. I already went over Kensuke Sasaki. He was so disgusted by, wait, this garbage wrestler, I'm a legit wrestler, and this garbage wrestler's coming in, and he's gonna, supposed to put him over on his first. Nope, that's not happening. Things like that were going on. So, so he wasn't the biggest. Not everybody liked Onita. In New Japan, Masahiro Chono did like Onita, and so that was an easy thing to work with. But even Chono, Chono was such a draw and such a big star. Chono liked Onita, but he's not going to lose to Onita, and I don't think he was ever asked to lose to Onita. So it was decided, there was going to have to be politics on that end, even with someone liking Onita.
Okay, and so going forward, on February 21st, FMW, they ran a show in Fukuoka. If you want to go over that show for us.
Yeah, so this show, it only aired in clips, but I've actually seen about 10 years ago or so, this show got put on the internet, and you could only access it if you were in Japan, and I was in Japan at this time, so I actually was able to access this show, and so I've seen it, but I don't have I don't have the full show available anymore. But so I saw this show, and it was the main event was Mr. Ganosuke versus Hayabusa, and Hayabusa, this is they've had two other matches, singles matches since Ganosuke returned, and Hayabusa had won both of them. Well, this time Ganosuke is the one getting pushed now going forward. He's the one that has the double title shot against Fuyuki. He won the over-the-top tournament in January, so now he gets a shot at Fuyuki's titles in March. And so now Ganosuke is the one getting pushed, so Ganosuke actually gets this win over Hayabusa, and it is a bad match. Again, they never showed it full at first. Years later, like I said, it got posted, but it is a bad match, and Hayabusa almost gets seriously injured in this match. He does a hurricane run off the top, and he doesn't go all the way around. He lands square on his head. It's a scary spot, and Ganosuke ends up getting the clean win. Hayabusa doesn't even recover after that messed up spot. And like I said, it's not a good match by any means. There's a reason, probably, like I said, there's a reason why it never aired in full until years later. But Ganosuke ends up doing a reverse Fire Thunder on Hayabusa and puts him away, and that's to build up Ganosuke going forward against Fuyuki. Well, then afterwards, like I said, Ganosuke now has a heel group. It's Hideki Osaka, and it's Super Leather, and they're putting the boots to Hayabusa and everything. Well, Kodo Fuyuki, who's the next guy, he's going to be taking on Ganosuke, so they're they're feuding. Fuyuki comes in and makes the save for Hayabusa, and he chases Ganosuke away and everything. And so Hayabusa's looking at him like, wait, you've been the enemy, and now you're helping me? And so it just kind of creates this different dynamic where it's always been, Hayabusa's the face, Fuyuki's the heel, and now with Ganosuke as the new top heel, things are kind of changing up here for the next couple months.
So we've gone over before how he's had various, he's had times of being very hurt to the point where he had to take, a couple months off. How are his injuries stacking up now?
Well, as far as those injuries, the ones that he was suffering in 95, 96, where it was as if his body would have been in a car wreck, those are pretty much all healed. Like all those past injuries, I'm sure there's always going to be lingering injuries. I asked him even years after, after his career over, even, in a wheelchair and everything, I was like, do you still feel these injuries that you felt in the ring? And he goes, yeah, I still feel my knee. He can't walk, but he still feels pain in his knee or his elbows and, things like that. And, but at this point, his elbows are what's killing him. And, those are giving him the big issues right now. He's going home and his elbows are killing him from doing the 450 splashes every day after every match and stuff. And so he's just dealing with it at this point, and I'm sure he's dealing with it through the way he did it in 1995, 1996. He never, he didn't write it down. Like he wrote in his memoirs about the 95, 96 injuries. He didn't write about 99, but I'm sure he was taking the painkiller still that he took a lot of in 95, 96, and then just drank a lot as well. He always, would go to the clubs and everything and just drink his pain away.
The final show of the month is on February 27th, FMW. They ran Tokyo. What happened on the show?
So the main matches here were Hayabusa and Hizugatsu Oya, taking on Mr. Ganosuke and Hideki Hosaka. And the whole thing with that match is the fact that Hayabusa and Oya, they had kind of a spat back in December when Hayabusa was like, I'm gonna beat Oya and I'm gonna win the tournament. And Oya took exception to that. And so Oya ended up getting the win and being like, I told you so, I told you so. Well, they're still faces technically. Oya's still a face technically. So Oya and Hayabusa team up against Mr. Ganosuke and Hideki Osaka. And Oya, pretty much this match leads to Hayabusa. Oya is setting up, he's about to deliver a backdrop, and Hayabusa is going to come off the top rope. And Oya ends up letting go of, it's either Ganosuke or Osaka. He lets go of him, and then Hayabusa awkwardly lands on the mat going, what are you doing? And Oya ends up backdropping Hayabusa. So Oya now has turned on Hayabusa, and he is joining Ganosuke and Hideki Osaka and Super Leather. So now, the Ganosuke group is getting larger, and they all just pretty much beat down Hayabusa until Ganosuke, he does the reverse fire thunder, and again pins Hayabusa. And again, they're pounding on Hayabusa, laying the boots on him. When again, Kodo Fuyuki comes out to make the save, and this time Hayabusa gets up, and they're Fuyuki and Hayabusa are looking at each other, and Hayabusa and Fuyuki hug and embrace with each other. So now Fuyuki and Hayabusa are going to be a tag team. And in the main event, Masato Tanaka defeats Tetsuhiro Kuroda. Again, it's the Kuroda push of you just lose to the top guy in more valuable, the higher ranked matches, but you're going to keep losing and losing. And this is a really good match. Again, Kuroda is really coming onto his own at this point. He's becoming a really good worker. And Tanaka ends up getting the win again with the Diamond Dust, and the Diamond Dust is treated like it's a devastating killer. You get hit with it, you're done. And so Tanaka gets the win. This is to set up Tanaka and Kuroda shaking hands and embracing. And now they're going to be a tag team, and this all leads to there's going to be a tag team tournament to determine the new FMW Brass Knuckles Tag Team Champions, because Hayabusa and Daisuke Ikeda had vacated the titles after Ikeda had been injured for a month. I think it was really just, let's get the titles off them. We don't want Hayabusa or Ikeda to lose, so let's just get the titles off them and let's have a tag team tournament, because Japan loves having, a tag team or a singles tournament just to this will get us through the next 3 months or so. And just one other small note, also, I mentioned Daisuke Ikeda and Muhammad Ayone, and, they had been with Hayabusa's group, but there's kind of, and they have a match with Koji Nakagawa, Yukihiro Kanemaru, and Hito, Team No Respect. They do a really good, kind of a shoot angle here where I believe it's Kanemaru gets kicked in the face really hard by Ikeda and really gets pissed off at him. And this kind of starts up an FMW Battle Arts feud where now all the Battle Arts guys are just going to be on their own team, and the FMW guys are, the Team No Respect guys and everything, they're going to feud with Battle Arts going forward as well.
Now, on March 7th, Onita, he ran one of his Uso shows in Kuroken Hall. If you can go over this and talk about the attendance and such.
So this show, I may mention back in December, Onita ran an Uso show, and it didn't draw very well. So he pretty much scrapped that idea, and he started running Onita Pro shows under his own name, and this was the last bit of FMW agreeing to work with Onita. They were still working in the office and everything, and so Onita teamed up with Masato Tanaka against Shoji Nakamaki and Yukihiro Kanemaru in a no-ropes barbed wire match. Again, this is just, Tanaka and Kanemaru love having death matches, so I'm sure they were just fine having this match, but pretty much after this, all the relationship with Onita and FMW ended completely after this. But this show sold out, so it did a lot better. And this kind of began the, Onita, the fan base of Onita, and how passionate they were. It wasn't like this with FMW at the end. They didn't love Onita like they did, years earlier. Well, now that he started his own promotion, and it's kind of like, hey, we got all the old this is the old FMW vibe. This isn't entertainment wrestling. This is that street fight barbed wire style that you grew, that you knew about, that we did 5 years ago and everything. And so it draws really well. I mean, it's kind of got a nostalgia feel to it at this point still. But Onita and can still have a good barbed wire match, and he's got good workers in Tanaka and Kanemaru there as well. So I mean, it's a pretty good match as far as a barbed wire death match goes. And like I said, and then Onita goes back to having his Onita theater and having the crowd just go crazy for him. And this is pretty much going forward, how Onita pro shows are going to be. A horrible undercard with wrestlers, from FMW past or low indies. DDT, which is a nothing promotion at this point, filling in the undercard, and then have the big Onita match. In a barbed wire match, and watching these matches on tape or so, especially Onita towards the end, Onita wasn't a good worker by any means, but being at these shows, one of my favorite experiences in Japan was attending a Super Battle FMW show, which was Onita in the barbed wire deathmatch, because of just that feeling you get, just that vibe, and just how into the crowd it is, and Onita doing his Onita theater, and it's just something like it's being at this like spectacle, and it's just something so awesome to see, just all these, this crowd just going with everything Onita is saying. So it's an awesome experience, even if the matches suck.
Now, is there any reason why this show drew so much better than the previous ones? We had talked before, the previous shows completely bombed, and this show did pretty well.
Yeah, I think it's because of the main event too. You got to think of, they're adding Tanaka, Nakamaki, Kanemaru. Those are guys that are, can, have legitimate drawing power. Whereas before it was Kuroda, Yoshinori Sasaki, Hideki Osaka. They were lower end guys. But you also add in the fact that it was kind of this weird Uso. Is this FMW the same thing? Is this just pretty much an FMW show, even though there's going to be 2 more FMW shows after, the next 2 days at Corrigan Hall? And so, and again, this is a barbed wire street fight and everything. So it kind of had a better establishment here of, okay, now we know what this is. This is Onita. It's barbed wire. It's, it's FMW from 5 years ago, whereas the Uso show in December was kind of like, wait, is this also an FMW show? It kind of, it's, at this time, not everybody knew Onita was definitely gone from FMW when you had, his old teammates from Team Zero still in the match with him and everything.
Okay, sorry about that. So, now, just to cover it once, now, throughout March, Onita, he's doing a lot of stuff with the different companies, and he's his own greatest salesman. What PR stunts is he doing throughout the month of March?
Okay, yeah, so at this point, what he's doing is he had dropped out of high school to join the All Japan Dojo when he was like 16 years old, and so he ends up deciding, I'm no longer working this full-time schedule or anything, and so I can go back to night school. I can go get my high school degree. This is something my mom has always wanted. My mom always wanted me to get a degree, and Onita, for all the things, he's a jerk and he's egomaniac and all that, he loves his mom. That is the number one thing I've learned about Onita. He loves his mom, and to make her happy, to see her, just make her, really appreciate, something about him that's not wrestling was a really big deal to him. So he would end up graduating high school after, after about a year or so, and he would actually go to college after this as well and get his college diploma around 2005. So it was a really big thing for Onita to be able to, accomplish something that he never had accomplished, because he was 16, his dad had died, and he had to work. He had to make money. And so, and again, this makes good publicity. This is all over the newspapers. This is in the magazines and everything as well. So it's a good publicity for him. It's not, it's not FMW. It's not another promotion. It's Onita, and that's what Onita likes.
Another thing that Onita was trying to do was, he had the matches coming up in New Japan, and he was trying to get a guy named Ted Tanabe to be the referee for the matches. Who was he?
He is a longtime referee. He was actually a referee of the very first FMW show with Onita and Aoyagi. It was Ted Tanabe that was the referee. He would end up going to Wing after the split with Miki Ibaragi, so he was the Wing referee. And then he would end up going to Michinoku Pro, and he was the Michinoku Pro referee for years and years and years. And at this time, Onita has a relationship with Tanabe going back 10 years, and Onita was always close with Michinoku Pro, with Sasuke and everything. And so the angle is, hey, that last referee, I threw a fireball. The New Japan referee DQ'd me for throwing a fireball. So I don't trust him anymore. That's, his New Japan bias. I want my own referee. I want a referee I can trust. I trust Ted Tanabe. And so that was the angle, but Ted Tanabe didn't end up working the show or anything like that. But he was my favorite referee. He was great at comedy matches with Shinzaki and in the Michinoku Pro. He was, like I said, he was Michinoku Pro referee probably from like the beginning of '93 to about 2006 or so, and then there was a Michinoku Pro Osaka Pro feud, and Ted Tanabe actually went heel and joined Osaka Pro and became their referee until he ended up having a heart attack in the ring in 2009 and passing away in Osaka. So, but like I said, he was my favorite referee. He was, if you were watching wrestling in the 90s or so, or early 2000s, and Michinoku Pro or anything like that, and he was also an FMW referee 97, 98, also around that time period when FMW and Michinoku Pro were working together. So like I said, there was a long relationship with Onita and Ted Tanabe.
And as far as FMW shows go, they had a show in Sapporo on the 19th, and then they closed the month on the 29th in Kurokan Hall. If you want to go over these two shows for us.
Yeah, so again, I always talk about Korakuen Hall and Sapporo. Those are the two shows that they gotta try and make money off of to try and make up for past debt over touring or whatnot. Well, this show, it did 4,500, which is like the lowest Sapporo show they ever did. And this show, it's pretty much Masafuchi and Tsushoshi Kikuchi defeated Koji Nakagawa and Geto. That's an All Japan FMW feud a match. Again, FMW and All Japan are working together at this point. Kikuchi pins Nakagawa. And then the Hayabusa and Jinsei Shinsaki that defend the All Japan All Asian Tag Team titles against Masato Tanaka and Tetsuhiro Kuroda. This is an awesome match. It starts out slow. When you first start watching it, you're like, this is gonna get boring. But it picks up, and it is a great match. 1999. I mentioned last episode. 1998 first half is great. There's some great matches. Late 1998 kind of slows down. Well, this first half of 1990, it produces a lot of great matches, and like I said, this is one of them. It goes over 30 minutes. These four guys just really click in this match. Like I said, it's one of the better FMW matches of all time, let alone this year, but there's a lot of great FMW matches this year. And Hayabusa ends up getting the win over Hiro Kuroda, and so they successfully defend the All Asian Tag Team titles on this show. And then the main event, and it was such a good match. So this show wasn't aired, but it was such a good match that FMW wanted this match out there, and so they aired it on in the April pay-per-view. They just added this match on top of it because they wanted as many people to see this match because it was so good. And then the main event, this match is not aired in full, but because it wasn't that great. But it's Kodo Fuyuki versus Mr. Ganosuke. Ganosuke bleeds buckets for this match. He gets cut open, and his whole half his face is just covered in blood. And he really puts over Fuyuki strong in this match. Fuyuki ends up getting the win over Mr. Ganosuke in about 20 minutes or so. And this, like I said, they really wanted to push Ganosuke returning, and he was the top heel before he got injured, and he had a lot of momentum going forward. Well, they wanted him to be this black monk heel and everything, and it just never really got over. So after this match, this kind of, all right, Ganosuke, we're not going to push you as the number one heel anymore going forward or anything like that. So this is kind of the climax of Ganosuke as far as the heel in FMW is at this point. He's going to get pushed down a little bit. And like I said, Kodo Fuyuki ends up getting the win over Ganosuke, so he successfully defends the tag team title, the FMW double titles. And then this starts up after this show, then starts up the FMW Tag Team Tournament. 8 different teams. It's a round robin tag team tournament, and the Corrigan Hall show, which again doesn't do very well, 19 announced crowd of 1950. Pretty much the top two matches are tournament matches. Daisuke and Muhammad Yone, who are the Battle Arts team, they defeat Mr. Ganasuke and Hizugatsu Oya when Ikeda pins Oya. And this kind of is the same thing as the match earlier, or the match prior, the month earlier, when Team No Respect got really upset at Ikeda and Yone for their hard kicks to the face and everything, and they take exception to it. Same thing with Ganasuke and Oya. They get really pissed off at Ikeda and Yone during this match for all the stiff kicks, the battle art style kick. So two separate FMW groups are really upset over this battle arts team and what they're doing. And like I said, Ikeda pins Oya in this match, and then Hayabusa and Kodo Fuyuki, they take on Masato Tanaka and Tetsuhiro Kuroda. This match goes to a 30-minute time limit, so that no team does the job, and it's pretty much to set up for a future match between the two for the finals, and they didn't want any team jobbing. They didn't want the Hayabusa Kodo Fuyuki team jobbing until the finals or anything like that. So both teams are kept strong, and it's a good match. Nothing like the match 10 days earlier for the All Asian Tag Titles, but it's still a good match, but it's nothing spectacular or anything like that. So right now FMW is kind of going through this weird time period where kind of everything's different and it's not clicking either.
Now, as part of the tag team tournament, there's a team called Armageddon on this tour. Who were they?
That was they'd be best known for as the 3-minute warning in WWE. So Fatu and Samu, Fatu being they're both part of the Samoan family. Fatu, they'd also be known as Jamal and Rosie. But yeah, Fatu is actually Roman Reigns' brother. They both have passed away since, but over the last couple of years or so. Actually, I take that back. Rosie was Roman Reigns' brother, Samu. But yeah, so both of them were pretty much they got their start in FMW, working a couple of the FMW tours until 2001 when WWE would sign them.
Okay. Going forward, on April 4th, NOW relaunched. Now, this was a company founded by Kendo Nagasaki that went on to become the precursor for Big Japan. And it's been dormant for quite a while now. Just curious, how did this company get relaunched, and how long did it go for?
Didn't go very long. I barely remember it. Following Japanese wrestling really hardcore at this time, I barely remember it. I think Nagasaki just found a sponsor that was willing to promote very small level indie shows, and I don't think it made it past I don't think it made it out of the year or anything like that.
So going forward, on April 10th, New Japan, they held they held a second dome show, and on the show was Chono versus Onita on exploding barbed wire death match and such. If you want to go over it, there's a lot of stuff that happened before and after. So how was this match, and how was it built up?
Pretty much this match is known for the entrances also. This is the one where Onita comes to the ring, and he ends up bringing a chair, and he just sits down on the ramp and pulls out a cigarette and starts smoking while fans are throwing debris and trash all at him. It's a cool, great image. And then Masahiro Chono, he comes out in a big stretch limousine and everything. So it's probably best known for its entrances. But again, this is a match where, it's better than the Kensuke Sasaki match where Kensuke Sasaki didn't even want to sell for Onita. Chono was willing to go, work with Onita and everything. But this match is, like I said, it's an exploding barbed wire match, and both go through the exploding barbed wire. And then eventually they both go together through the exploding barbed wire, and then they both can't make the 10 count. And so it's considered a draw again. And they didn't want to job Onita out or anything like that. But they didn't, want Chono to lose to Onita either. So it's just, again, it's politics. We want Onita to be this outside draw, but we also and have these dream matches. But we also don't want him to beat our talent. That are our guys and everything, because we don't want that image of Masahiro Chono is not as good as Atsushi Onita. It's kind of like those, like I said, it's the politics, and Vince McMahon does this, has this thing also where I don't want my guys losing to the WCW guys coming in, even though the matches are making me money. I don't want that image of the past guy, the WCW guys having beaten the WWE, WWF guys, and so this is kind of what that was, where New Japan didn't want their guys losing all that much. Again, to like a star like Chono. So they end up having the screw job, pretty much just double KO. And afterwards, Chono and Onita, they kind of embrace, and Chono and like share handed a jacket over to one another. They walk out together and everything. And so this is actually to set up Onita and Chono as a tag team. I believe Onita is joining Chono's Team 2000.
All right, and are there? I mean, we're going to answer this as it goes, but there are still like big plans. Onita is here to stay. It's not a one-off thing, right?
Well, it's not a one-off, but at the time, the plan is he's working until August. We got him till August. He's going to work a match with Muto. And at that time, it's all right. That's pretty much it for Onita. And then eventually, Choshu decides he wants to come out of retirement, and so the whole thing with Onita and Choshu, that's got to be the first match that comes. But that's later. That's July 2000. So the plan, pretty much right now is Onita's going to work till August, and he's going to have a match with Muto in a exploding ring match.
And we're going to talk about that more later because I have a couple questions. So on April 20th, FMW, they run Kuroken Hall. If you want to go over that for us.
Yeah. Again, this is another really disappointing show. It's a theme here of, as far as Korakuen Hall, they only announced 1,700, so I imagine that's even far less. That's like the lowest Korakuen Hall number that I think I've ever seen for FMW as far as the full show goes. And this show pretty much has again the end of the Ganosuke and Kanemaru feud. Ganosuke again puts away Kanemaru with a Fire Thunder, and afterwards they're not necessarily friends, but there's kind of a common enemy now in the Battle Arts group, and they kind of start to work together. So their hatred towards one another that was very rapid in December and January has cooled down, and they're actually going to be partnering up because of their hatred for the Battle Arts group. And what Battle Arts, the kind of this smug little jerk, we're gonna kick you in the face attitude and everything. So they're gonna have a match in May against the Battle Art group, and then the tag team tournament, Koji Nakagawa and Geto defeat Masato Tanaka and Tetsuhiro Kuroda. This is the big upset. Tanaka and Kuroda had been getting wins across the board. It was pretty much like this was always to set up Hayabusa and Fuyuki against Tanaka and Kuroda. Well, and both teams are just steamrolling through all the other teams, and and then when they met back in March, neither one got the win. And so you think, okay, well, they're just both gonna be the top teams for the finals. Well, with this Nakagawa and Geto win, Geto ends up getting this Geto clutch on Kuroda. They end up getting this upset win. Well, that sets up Nakagawa and Geto as down the road they're able to end up tying with Tanaka and Kuroda. The main event is Hayabusa and Kodo Fuyuki. They hadn't lost, like I said, they haven't lost a match yet or anything like that. They had just only tied with Tanaka and Kuroda. Well, they defeat the Battle Arts team of Daisuke Ikeda and Muhammad Yone. Hayabusa ends up getting the pin over Muhammad Yone, and Daisuke Ikeda and Yone were team partners with Hayabusa and everything back in 1998. Well, for this tournament, there's a complete separation between the two. They are no longer friends. They're treating Hayabusa like they were Kanemaru and Ganosuke. These, little smug kicks to the face, being these, pretty much being heels and everything to Hayabusa. And so it's just to kind of get over, they don't care anymore. It's officially Battle Arts versus FMW going forward, no matter who you are, even if you were our friend. But like I said, Hayabusa ends up getting the win. So Hayabusa and Kodo Fuyuki keep their streak alive, while Tanaka and Kuroda kind of are slowing down, or they end up taking the big loss in their match.
And one show that I want to talk about really briefly is on the 25th. They held a show at the Kyoto KBS Hall. Now, this is the hall that's, you see it sometimes. I know Oz and Stardom and Dragon Gate run there, where it's like a Sistine's chapel. It's got like, what do you call it, the stained glass window, and it's really beautiful, and it's amazing that they use it for wrestling. Do you have any info about this hall and what it's normally used for?
It's a concert hall. They'll have recitals, piano recitals, and everything like that. There's a website, you can go to it and you can check out the schedule, and it's all concerts. And so it's mostly for music, like I said, piano concerts and everything like that. But yeah, so FMW started running it around this time period, and they ran it until about the end. I mean, I think around this is probably one of the first shows the building had for wrestling and everything. But yeah, after FMW ended and stopped working there, like you said, the women's promotions and Dragon Gate runs there like once a month or so.
There was a Tokyo Dome show on April 27th, and Hayabusa was there as a guest. Is there any story behind him being there other than just going for the show?
He threw the first pitch for the show. He was he still was a well-known celebrity and everything. Even I remember talking to him and I was like, do people recognize you? And he goes, only with the mask. If I got the mask, everyone knows who I am. Without the mask, nobody knows who I am. So, you put the mask on, people know, hey, that's Hayabusa. Especially back then and everything. And so he, like I said, he threw the first pitch for this show. It was probably at the Tokyo Dome. It's probably to, promote the All Japan Tokyo Dome show that was coming up in the next couple days, I'm guessing.
So one thing we haven't talked about, which is, this is one of the lower regarded or the lower hyped shows, is the May 5th show, which classically was FMW's biggest show. They've done shows where they've drawn over 45 and 50,000 people, and it doesn't seem like there's that much build for this show going in. One of the early talks for the main matches is going to be Kodo Fuyuki facing Tarzan Zangoto. Goto, he left the company many years prior, and he hasn't been back since. Was this a real possibility, or how far into negotiations did this get?
Yeah, he wanted to. Kodo Fuyuki, after he defeated Mr. Ganosuke, he actually announced, I'm challenging Tarzan Goto. He wanted a match with Tarzan Goto. That was the plan originally, was for the match to be Fuyuki and Tarzan Goto. Negotiations just never really took off. Goto did not want to come back to FMW. We talked about it, I believe, last episode, where Onita goes, I'll have a match with you. I want to have a match with Goto because the Pogo thing didn't look like it was going to happen. And Goto goes, only if it's an empty arena match is what, Goto, and I said, I think that's just Goto's way of saying, I don't want to have the match because I know you're not going to have an empty arena match. That's not going to work. So, I think Goto just never really wanted to come back to FMW. And, regardless of who was under control, he just never had any intention of working FMW. And so, FMW wasn't going to, and, the FMW wasn't going to pay him that much money. Probably his asking price was just too much, for a name that was only working IWA Japan at this point. In IWA Japan, we've gone over it, nothing like the past. They're, the crowd is, like that. They're not, Tarzan Goto is not making that much money from IWA Japan. So I'm guessing FMW made a lot bigger offer than what he's used to, to main event, a bigger promotion, a big show, Yokohama, Bunka Gym, and, main event. And Goto probably asked for too much, and it just never was going to happen because Goto did not want to return back to FMW, and he never did. He said he was leaving FMW, and he was never going to, he said he was, when Ganosuke and Ichihara and all them left, Goto said, I'm gone. I'm not coming back and everything. And Ganosuke and Ichihara were so miserable in IWA Japan. They came back, and, there's like, I don't, and it's just, and there are mixed responses, because I've heard, Ricky Fuji told me, oh, well, we just didn't want Tarzan Goto back in 1997. He would have came back otherwise. So there's just these mixed conflicting issues where, it's, I don't know how to really describe it. Pretty much it's just kind of one of those, like, I want to come back on my own terms, and I'm not going to have you, if I don't really want to come back, then I'm not coming back type thing, or unless you're going to pay me a lot of money. And FMW wasn't in the position to pay him that much money.
Going in, FMW, they held a show on May 3rd in Nagoya, which was the final push for the show. If you want to just go over, what happened on this show and what are the main matches for the May 5th show going forward?
Yeah, so this show, again, it bombed. They built this show up for 3 months, or I guess 2 months plus, and just like the whole tournament, it just bombed. It only announced 2,100 for this big building, and they darkened the crowd so much you couldn't even see anything. And so this was, the first sign of we're in trouble. Back in 1998, it was, we're taking hits. We're losing money, but we got DirecTV. We got, this big, platform that's paying us a lot of money. And we're, and after this tour, after this whole series tag team tournament, it was like, we need change. And we'll go over it in a second as far as what all happened. But, yeah, so like I may mention, Koji Nakagawa and Gedo actually ended up tying with Masato Tanaka and Tetsuhiro Kuroda as far as points. They ended up 3 days earlier on April 30th, they got 2 wins. So they got 4 points in a day, and so it's kind of like they just snuck up and tied Tanaka and Kuroda to have kind of a playoff match. Tanaka and Masato Tanaka and Tetsuhiro Kuroda, and they get the revenge on Nakagawa and Gedo. Just pretty much Kuroda puts Gedo away after just 2 minutes, and to be able to advance to the finals. And so. And then Mr. Ganosuke and Hizugatsu Oya, they actually defeat Daisuke Ikeda and Muhammad Yone, and there's this big brawl afterwards. And that's, like I said, to set up this FMW Battle Arts match for May 5th. And then the finals had Masato Tanaka and Tetsuhiro Kuroda taking on Hayabusa and Kodo Fuyuki. And the whole thing with Hayabusa and Fuyuki was they never lost in the tournament. They only drawed with Tanaka and Kuroda. And now it's one match for the titles, and Tanaka actually ends up hitting Fuyuki with the roaring elbow and knocks Fuyuki out. Fuyuki just it looks like he's unconscious and everything, and Tanaka gets the win over Fuyuki, and so Tanaka and Kuroda win the tag team tournament. So Hayabusa and Fuyuki were this monster team that went through everybody, won every match besides a draw, and they end up losing and not winning the tournament as a result. And so Hayabusa ends up taking a bucket of water, and Fuyuki's still just knocked out. He looks unconscious. And so Hayabusa drops a bucket of water on Fuyuki. That wakes Fuyuki up, and he is pissed off at Hayabusa for doing that and just starts slapping him. And the Team No Respect group with Fuyuki and the FMW group with Hayabusa, they're trying to hold each other back. They've been, partnering up for the last couple months and everything. And now Fuyuki and Hayabusa, it looks like that team is officially over after after this tag team tournament. And so that ends up leading up to May 5th.
So, if you want to go over May 5th, normally, like I said, this is like the biggest show of the year, and it has the biggest matches. How did this show do?
Another disappointing crowd. They announced a sellout of 4,900, but legitimate was about 2,800 or so. It's nothing. It's nothing that they made a lot of money on or anything like that. Pretty much, I may mention that. There's a couple things that lead up to this, to the end of this show. Gedo and Jado had this match. I may mention Jado had left Team No Respect in January. He was injured. He was announcer and everything. And then in March or so, they set up a match, they set up that Jado and Gedo are now feuding and everything. Jado poured a bottle of water on Gedo as a show of disrespect to Gedo and that their friendship was over and everything. So during this match, Kanemaru comes out to help out Gedo, and it looks like Gedo or Kanemaru and Team No Respect gonna take out Jado. Well, Gedo ends up turning on Kanemaru, and so Jado ends up letting Gedo get the win. Just lay down and lets Gedo get the win over him, and now Jado and Gedo look like they are now just together. They've broken away from Team No Respect because they've turned on Kanemaru. And then Actually, real quick, make mention the Minoru Tanaka gets the win over Ricky Fuji. FMW has brought back the FMW Independent Junior Heavyweight title, a title that they had held, that they had been, they started up in 1993, and Taka Michinoku had won the title and brought it to Mexico before going to WWF, and so that it was just vacated. It was never being defended anymore. So FMW brought it back, and Minoru Tanaka defeats Ricky Fuji in this match. And then, and we've talked about in the, on previous episodes, this actually leads to this title belt just being defended all over the independent scene for years and years. And actually, it has the FMW letters on it, but this was the last FMW show it ever was a part of. After Tanaka wins and pretty much brings it to Battle Arts. And then Masato Tanaka and Tetsuhiro Kuroda take on Hayabusa and Jinsei Shinzaki. It's a rematch of the Sapporo show in March. That was a great match. And this isn't at that level of the Sapporo show, but it's still a really great match. I really like this match also. Hayabusa does this spot where he jumps over the top, dives onto the top rope, and then jumps over to the outside, over the guardrail into the crowd, which is a really incredible scene, incredible spot. And Hayabusa, he misses a Phoenix Splash, and Tanaka brings back the reverse DDT on Hayabusa over the middle turnbuckle and everything like that. And eventually, I've talked about Kuroda getting the, he's been losing a whole bunch of matches into top talent and everything. Well, this match, he actually gets the win over Hayabusa. He hits a lariat on Hayabusa and gets the pin. So Kuroda gets the pin over Hayabusa, his biggest win of his career pretty much at this point. And because Tarzan Goto had not, nothing, the negotiations never worked out or whatnot for the main event, Fuyuki. So they set it up where the winner, the person that gets the pinfall of this match, will face Fuyuki for the double titles in the main event. So now it's going to be Kuroda versus Fuyuki in the main event of the show. And then also just real quick, Tsuyoshi Kikuchi defeated Koji Nakagawa. That was an All Japan FMW match. And also on the show, Takeshi Morishima defeated Yoshinori Sasaki. That was kind of like a young lions match, young boy match. Morishima is pretty well known, for his Noah run years later. So both, All Japan gets the win over the FMW opponents. And then another awesome match is Yuki. For this show not doing that well, it actually is one of my favorite shows. It's because there's several really good matches on this show. But Yuki Ikeda, Muhammad Yone, Takashi Hijikata, and Katsumi Yoshuda, the Battle Arts team, they take on Mr. Ganasuke, Hizagatsu Oya, Yukihiro Kinemura, Hideki Hosaka, and Hito. So like I said, the FMW Team No Respect group, Ganasuke and Kinemura had been feuding prior to this. Well, now they're teaming up and everything. And this is a single elimination match. And it leads to, eventually Ikeda and Yone going up against Ganasuke and Kinemura. And Ikeda ends up eliminating Yukihiro Kinemura, and so now that just leads Mr. Ganasuke against Yone and Ikeda, and the crowd gets really behind Ganasuke actually for this match, and he actually puts on a great performance here. He ends up eliminating Muhammad Yone. It's kind of one of those against the odds type scene, and so he ends up eliminating Yone and then facing off just against Daisuke Ikeda. Daisuke Ikeda ends up getting the win over Ganasuke. I think that was a big booking mistake as far as it really would have helped Ganasuke get the win. But politics, prevented that. Battle Arts didn't want to lose to FMW at this point anymore. And so, like I said, it would have really put Ganasuke over, especially going forward, because he was going to be in some money matches. And, to lose to somebody like Daisuke Ikeda probably hurt him. But it was, like I said, it was an awesome match. I would definitely recommend this match, to watch this. This is a really awesome match. It goes 25 minutes. And then the FMW titles match, the main event, Kodo Fuyuki and Tetsuhiro Kuroda. Pretty much they start off, Kuroda comes to the ring, and then come out and play by Offspring plays. And you see the entire Team No Respect group. They're all back. It's Fuyuki. It's Ganasuke. It's Kinemura. It's Jado. It's Geto. Hito. the whole group from the original, they're all back together, and now they're going to be heels and everything. All the feuds with, Hayabusa and all, Oya and everything, they're starting over. It's going back to square one, and it's Team No Respect against FMW. And Team No Respect, they help out Fuyuki during the match, and Fuyuki takes a fork and he cuts up open Kuroda. This is by no means a good match or anything like that. But it's pretty much just Fuyuki gigging Kuroda, just Kuroda fighting back bloody and everything. But and actually Goito is the referee of this match. And I remember watching this match and thinking that this should have been Goito, and there's this little tease where Kuroda, has a pinfall over Fuyuki, and Goito does this little slow count, and then just smiles and just goes 2. And it's just like, oh, and nothing ever leads to it or anything like that. But Fuyuki ends up getting the win over Kuroda, and he just ends up defeating Kuroda, defending the FMW double titles. And as soon as the match is over, Hayabusa jumps in the ring. He jumps on the top rope and dives at Fuyuki and starts attacking Fuyuki because, now Team No Respect is back and, as heels and everything. And, they were just partners and friends 2 days ago. And now, it's back to, he's shown his true colors, it's back to being heel Fuyuki, and Team No Respect attacks Hayabusa, and they start laying him out, and the crowd starts throwing trash in the ring, and they were throwing trash at Onita, New Japan, but now this is the only time the FMW was throwing trash at their own guys and everything. And they're laying out Hayabusa, and they actually have a crutch in the ring. And the reason I was saying, this was a missed opportunity, Goito is the ref. It should have been a backstory of, when Goito originally turned on the Nakagawa back in '98 to join Team No Respect. He should have, he used a crutch to over the back of Nakagawa. Well, they have a crutch in the ring, and they just smash it over Hayabusa, but there's no backstory to it or anything. And nothing about Goito or anything like that. Just that tease one time heel, like, I went slow, but and then Goito was gone from the company after this. We'll go over that in a second. But so like I said, Hayabusa is getting laid out here. Ganosuke puts him in the in his Nirvana stranglehold, and then he does a power bomb on Hayabusa and everything on the trash in the ring and whatnot. And the FMW group comes in the ring, and Masato Tanaka comes, faces Fuyuki, and Fuyuki runs. All right, and they all retreat after Tanaka hits the ring. And Hisagatsu Oya, Hideki Osaka, who are just a part of Ganosuke's group, Tanaka, Kuroda, Hayabusa. Hayabusa grabs the mic and he starts crying and everything, how upset he is at Fuyuki and everything. And Hayabusa and Tanaka, who they had split apart after Tanaka had returned to FMW, he wasn't going to be a part of Hayabusa's group. They kind of look at each other and everything. And now going forward, that whole group, even though Oya had turned on Hayabusa just 2.5 months earlier, and and Hideki Osaka had been apart, now they're all just without nothing, without anything really being addressed or anything. They're all just going to be faces, and they're all just going to fight the Fuyuki heel team going forward.
So as you said, this show, it's pretty good, but the show kind of bombed pretty poorly. We're now about 8 months into the entertainment era. What is the feeling amongst the office and the talent about this direction for the company?
So, all right. So I may mention about Goito and everything. And he had been booker for years and years with FMW, and I mean, he was considered a genius. I really like his booking. I feel like I fell in love with FMW because of Goito, actually, and just what he, his booking style and everything, and add-ons, Hayabusa and everything, Onita, and this is why I loved FMW. Well, Goito, he just couldn't handle the direct TV approach of, we got to write all these storylines. We have a booking committee now, a writing team. we got to come up with this. Goito is just used to, all right, it's me, Hayabusa, Nakagawa. All right, how are we going to do this tour? All right, what's the big plan coming forward with this? And just kind of coming up with, but now we got to write this script. Now we got to do this. And Goito is only like, he's still in his 20s at this point, and he's been a part of the business for 8 years and everything. And he's at the table and he just drops his head down at the booking committee. And it's like, I can't do this anymore. He was just fried. He was just done. And he quit. I can't do this anymore. And so he ends up, like I said, the May 5th show was his last show. So he was done with FMW after that show. So Arai goes to Fuyuki and goes, well, you're part of the booking committee now, and I like your ideas and everything. Will you start up? Well, after May 5th, will you become the booker of the promotion? And Fuyuki goes, okay, but if give me 6 months. But if you don't like, if this isn't, if this is not successful, then you need to find somebody else and everything. So, Fuyuki was only just now becoming the main booker, coming up with the idea, the main ideas and stuff, because pretty much Goito had that mental breakdown and just couldn't handle it anymore. So Fuyuki is just now taking over, and Fuyuki, his thing is kind of a Vince Russo thing where if this isn't working, then we need to restart everything. And so this is why all of a sudden it just, went from Ganosuke is the top heel and, Team No Respect is a face group kind of now, and with Hayabusa and everything, to just now we're starting over. We're not even going to explain why Oya, who turned on Hayabusa, is now going to team up with Hayabusa and everything. We're just starting over, and everything's going back to square one, and now it's going to be FMW versus Team No Respect. And so now Fuyuki is pretty much the head booker. He's going to make all the main decisions, along with Arai having supervision and everything, on top of just all the direct TV, script writers and everything for the Corrigan Hall shows and everything. And so Fuyuki actually says, I want FMW to become. I don't want there to be an FMW anymore. I think we need to restart the promotion. And that's actually why the fans were throwing trash in the ring. They thought, there was a leak kind of out there that FMW was ending after this show. The 10th anniversary show was going to be their last show. And people were upset. This is going to now be WEW and everything. Now, Shoji Arai ended up turning that down at the last minute and deciding, no, FMW is, the name and everything. We got to use FMW. It's an established name. People know it. We're going to keep going forward as FMW. But Fuyuki wanted it to be WEW. He didn't think FMW, one, Onita is FMW and everything, and this isn't Onita's FMW. Two, there's going to be a backlash. The fans expecting, hey, this was a hardcore promotion, and Onita and Blood and and everything, and now you're an entertainment, sports entertainment company and everything. So he was kind of trying to eliminate the expectations of the fans and everything of where you're ruining FMW and stuff. So he tried to, do that, but Arai goes, no, FMW is a name brand, and we start over. Then we're a brand new company, and we don't have any name value anymore. So they kept the FMW name, and also Fuyuki wanted to redo the title belts and everything. Also, he didn't want FMW title belts anymore, and so he actually decided that he was going to create kind of how the New Japan has the IWGP titles, the division, then he wants the if I'm not going to have my own promotion under the WEW name, then I want the title belts to be WEW titles and everything. So Araya gave in to that idea. So you asked about it's been 6 months, but yeah, it's been 6 months, but now we're going completely under. Fuyuki is now just starting day one after May 5th, pretty much, and so. And as far as this last 6 months or so, I mean, I just went over all these shows, bad attendance. This number was low. Corrigan Hall, 1,700 announced. Sapporo, the lowest number in years and everything. And so, I mean, it's definitely taken a hit right now because of these low numbers, but they're thinking that's because we're not really going all out on sports entertainment. We need to do it more because there's no backtracking here and going back to death matches or anything like that. We need to go harder on the sports entertainment and going forward because we need to establish we're a sports entertainment company, because they were kind of in this mix of, like I said, the whole Onita thing, and then still just being known as this deathmatch promotion, and they hadn't really established this is what we are. And so going forward, they are establishing they are sports entertainment with Fuyuki in charge.
So it's the thing of we have. I just can't imagine that we need to go further. Okay. Well, that answers.
Well, there was no
going
back. Yeah, but there was no going back also, because you just couldn't go back to being this deathmatch company, because you already were a deathmatch company, and you were losing money there, and so you had to change your image. Two, this is what DirecTV, your main sponsor, giving you millions of dollars, this is what they want. And three, you're not gonna be Big Japan. Big Japan right now is doing fire matches and spider net death matches and tarantulas and all that and everything. You're not going to be you're not going to be that. You're not going to compete with Big Japan, which is a smaller company than you at the moment. So it's just kind of one of these, you got to be what you are. You've decided this is what you're doing, and you've accepted this is what you have to do going forward. And there's just, at this point, they don't feel they can go back.
Also, at this time, they announced that they're going to be ceasing any cooperation with any other their companies. Who did this affect, and why did they do this?
Yeah, so I may mention, so this was eliminated the relationship with All Japan. They eliminated the relationship with Battle Arts. That was just going to be straight out FMW is only working with nobody at this point. Only FMW guys are going to work FMW. That's it. And it's simply because I may mention the Battle Art guys didn't want to lose to the FMW guys on the May 5th show, when it really would have helped the FMW guys. And Battle Arts is a smaller promotion, but if they're refusing to work with you, then you gotta, I felt like Arai was very kind of passive, like, okay, fine, you can, our guys can lose. Like, he wasn't gonna put up the fight that a Battle Arts group was gonna put up, even though Battle Arts is a smaller promotion. So FMW agreed, okay, you know what, Battle Arts guys, you can beat us on May 5th, and we're pulling out of the deal. And then Battle Arts had their own big show, and they had already promoted Hayabusa and Kuroda for a tag match against Muhammad Yone and Alexander Asuka and Sapporo. And Yone defeated Kuroda, who was supposed to now be he just got the biggest win of his career, and now he's losing to Yone, and simply because, all right, we're just going to give you whatever you want, just let's get out of this deal. We don't want to work with you anymore. We're done with you, because you didn't want to lose to us. And now you want us, you didn't want to lose to us on May 5th in the single elimination match, and now, you want to go over on us in Sapporo on your show and everything. So it was just pretty much just, all right, just you can have what you want, but we're ending it there, And then All Japan just always wanted to win. All Japan was never going to lose to an FMW team. It was just, hey, if you want All Japan guys on our show, then you have to, you're going to lose every single time. And so FMW just saw this as, all right, we don't need All Japan that bad. They're not helping us that much, because, hey, they were just on our support. Yeah, we had Kikuchi, and, we had Takeshi Morishima, we had Masafuchi, which, those aren't even big names or anything. And it's not like they really helped, because those are two disappointing shows as it is. And it's not like we're getting Misawa or Kawada or anything like that on these shows. So it was just one of those, we're done always losing in these interpromotional matches, and going forward, it just to avoid the political headache of smaller companies wanting to beat us, or bigger companies never wanting to ever put any of us, putting over any of our guys ever. It's just, let's just eliminate it and just go forward. We're just FMW will work alone.
And what do the various talent have to say? Hayabusa, he's been trying, he's been rising in the ranks of different companies. So what do they have to say about this?
I mean, Hayabusa was so FMW at this point, so he's in these meetings. He's I talked to him, and he goes, I was the office. Like, there was no decision that he was making that he wasn't fully aware of. He was in all these meetings and everything, and so, as far as he was very pro Fuyuki and everything. And so, I mean, if this was a Fuyuki decision or Arai, he was very pro Arai. I mean, they were friends and everything. He was friends with both of them. So if either it was Fuyuki or Rai that made this decision, and I'm sure it was, hey, I understand, like, hey, All Japan, we're they're always beating us, in all our matches and stuff. I mean, even look, Hayabusa, established name and everything, a star, and they had to lose to Taman Honda and Jun Izumaida. Those are the low All Japan guys. They had to lose to them to be able to beat them. Him and Shinzaki had to get one win, to get the lower end tag team titles and everything. So it wasn't even like, originally this was, hey, Hayabusa versus Kenta Kobashi. This is a dream match that could happen. Or, these tag matches, Hayabusa, Misawa, and, Kuwata, Taue, Akiyama, all these dream matches. And now, okay, now those matches are done. All Japan just wants you to lose to, Honda and Izumaida, 50-50 booking before you get a win. So it's not like they were going to promote, he wasn't ever going to be like a top guy for All Japan on his off days with All Japan anymore. And, so that's why, like I said, after this show, it was, okay, we're ending relationships with All Japan, and you got to put over Takayama and Omori for the All Asian tag titles, because we got to get them off you, because now going forward we want nothing to do with All Japan.
And what else is changing in his life?
Right, on May 10th, he had his wife Harumi had their second child. She was born on May 10th, and so now Hayabusa, I may mentioned when Ayan was born, at least when Ayan was born, he was on tour, so he missed that. He was able to make this birth of his child, so because she was born on an off day. But he's now, he's a father of two now, two little girls and everything. And I talked about it last episode, or not last episode, but a couple episodes ago, how it really, he really wanted to be a father and everything, and it was something he really looked forward to, and he really did love his daughters. And it's just a shame, and we'll go over in a future episode, but just, it's heartbreaking how his relationship with his wife ended. When his relationship with his wife ended, he had to move out, and he never really got to, they lived in the same area and everything, but just not when when you're in a wheelchair and everything, you're not seeing, and your daughters live cross town, or down the even just down the street or so, you're not seeing them every day. And but at this time, he was super thrilled. He really loved both his daughters till the very end.
Okay. Well, going forward, so on May 13th, Onita, he ran another Uso show. If you want to go over that for us, if there's any notes.
Well, yeah, so this was actually, like I said, it was a Onita Pro show. He had dropped the Uso name. I think just Dave didn't know about it at the time. But this was just, it's called an Onita Pro show. And so, again, it was kind of one of those death matches, but he brought in Tenryu. Like I said, they were working together. Onita worked the War Yokohama show. Tenryu worked this Corrigan Hall show, and it was pretty much Onita, Sambo Asako, and Shigeo Okumura taking on Tenryu, Shoji Nakamaki, and Onita's personal friend Ichiro Yaguchi, as well as Dr. Luther and Dr. Hannibal, who were Lenny St. Clair and Steve Gillespie. They were the Canadian independent workers that had worked in FMW 92-93. They were brought in for these shows, and these were kind of like old FMW shows. Also, Onita brought in Katsushi Ueda, who was that kickboxer from the early FMW on these shows also. But like I said, this was just another one of those street fights and everything with Onita. Just setting up an Onita Tenryu feud that, it was just pretty much just to have as many tag matches as possible, because Onita in a tag versus Tenryu in a tag was going to be the best possible draws for these shows that they could do.
So jumping forward, on May 18th, Fuyuki held a press conference. What happened at this conference?
Yeah, well, he announced, I may mention, he was he was getting rid of the FMW titles going forward. So he announced that he was splitting up the FMW Brass Knuckles and the FMW Independent title. So they still were active as of right now. They're going to keep those titles up until the fall and everything. While they made a WEW title, they were making WEW tag titles. They were going to make WEW 6-man titles. So, but those titles weren't ready yet. So what he did was he announced he was vacating the titles. He was going to give Mr. Ganosuke the FMW Independent title, and he was going to give Yukihiro Kanemaru the FMW Brass Knuckles title. So that was to set up future matches, Ganosuke against Tanaka and Kanemaru versus Hayabusa. This was to help future Corrigan Hall shows going forward, and pretty much the FMW Brass Knuckles tag titles were just going to turn into the WEW tag titles, and they were going to hold a tournament to determine the WEW 6-man titles. The FMW 6-man Street Fight titles had been vacated in November, so they were just creating WEW titles in July. And then the FMW Independent Junior title that Minoru Tanaka had won, he had already lost it to Naoki Sano at a Battle Arts show, and Fuyuki just goes, all right, that title, Battle Arts can just have it. We don't need that title, and that's what began the whole process of just ipping this independent title, just defended throughout for decades now, I guess. But yeah, so he announced that he was going to be creating a WEW title, and that eventually he would just end up announcing himself as the champion. But right now, Ganosuke and Kanemaru were going to have the two different brass knuckle and independent titles going forward.
And what about the May 31st Kuroken show?
Yeah, so he announced. Okay, so at May 31st, they announced that again. Now he's fully in charge at this point and everything, and it's going to go on and everything. And what's popular in WWF? Well, Vince McMahon, as the evil heel owner, making all the decisions and everything. So Fuyuki announces at this show, he comes out in a suit and tie and everything, that Shoshi Arai has now sided with him. Shoshi Arai is now turning heel, and it's kind of like one of these Fuyuki brainwashed him type things. And he is going to be the commissioner of FMW, and he is now making the decisions going forward. What's going to happen? So his first thing he announces that Masato Tanaka cannot, I may mention on May 3rd, Tanaka knocked Fuyuki out with a roaring elbow and pinned him. And then, he came out on May 5th and Fuyuki ran after, pretty much getting knocked out by him 2 days earlier. Well, now Fuyuki has announced that Masato Tanaka is public enemy #1, and he has a new rule. If Masato Tanaka loses any type of match, takes the fall in any way, he is fired from FMW. And this is actually a good way to prevent Tanaka from doing any jobs, because they were really pushing Tanaka hard going forward. And so they have a main event of Hayabusa. And again, this is just to establish FMW versus Team No Respect. And it's Hayabusa, Masato Tanaka, Tetsuhiro Kuroda, Hizukatsu Oya, Hideki Osaka, just a clean sweep eliminating Kodo Fuyuki, Mr. Ganosuke, Koji Nakagawa, Yukihiro Kanemaru, and Hito in a single elimination match. Kuroda gets his kind of a win back by making Fuyuki tap pretty early in the match, but again, wearing a suit and tie and dress shoes and dress slack pants and all that during this match. He never changed into his attire for this match. Masato Tanaka eliminates Koji Nakagawa. Hideki Osaka, he sends Kanemaru through a table, and Kanemaru never gets up from that. Fuyuki also has announced that if you do a low blow, you're disqualified immediately. And that was just to be able to essentially get Ganosuke to be eliminated from this match without taking any loss. So he ends up doing a low blow to Hayabusa during this match. He sees the writing on the wall that this match is a lost cause. And so he just kicks Hayabusa low, and he is eliminated through DQ. And that leaves Hito against all 5, and Hito makes it about 2 minutes before Hayabusa puts him away with a Firebird Splash. So this was kind of the way of FMW getting its win back after the May 5th show with Team No Respect getting the win, a big show.
Now, also at this time, there was talk of restarting the women's portion of the company. Whatever happened of that?
Yeah, so Kaori Nakayama, she, had been with FMW since 1994, and at this point, she's the only women's wrestler still left. They got rid of Shark Tashia, they got rid of Crusher Mitamori. They were bad workers, having bad matches and everything. Nakayama had got hurt in '98, and they were just having Tashia and Mitamori have bad matches, and they were just like, we don't need to have these bad matches anymore. We don't need, this women's division's never been the same since Megumi Kudo retired. So they just let go Tashia and Mitamori, but they liked Nakayama. She was, this good young worker, but she was small. She was never going to be Megumi Kudo or anything like that. But she's on the roster. They're paying her, and now she doesn't have anyone to fight. And they had her have a mixed match in November, and then they started having her work with Gaia. She was working a couple shows for them there, the women's promotion, but FMW pulled away from all the promotions. So now they don't have her to work. Now she can't work for Gaia. So they end up hiring Emi Motokawa. She had an IWA Japan past. Fuyuki knew she was working some of the Fuyuki-gun shows in '97. Because of working IWA Japan. So Fuyuki liked her, and they hired her, and Nakayama and Emi Motokawa pretty much just had one-on-one matches for about a year or so, just undercard women's matches for pretty much the rest of 1999.
Okay, as we go into June, there's a couple shows coming up here. There's one on June 15th. This wound up being one of, this started a lot of gimmick matches with a lot of different stipulations in the WEW era. If you want to go over the June 15th show.
Well, yeah, so the two main matches there, 2 days earlier, so Masato Tanaka and Tetsuhiro Kuroda had won the FMW Brass Knuckles Tag Team titles on May 3rd. Well, their first defense, the team that they had such trouble with in the tournament, losing in that upset, well, they lose to Nakagawa and Geto again. Nakagawa pins Kuroda, and so now Koji Nakagawa and Geto are now the FMW Tag Team champions, and they defeat on June 15th. They defeat Sabu and Super Leather. They brought in Sabu for this little short tour, and Sabu and Super Leather end up turning on each other and brawling with one another. So Geto gets the win over Super Leather, and so they defend the FMW tag titles, and these titles would eventually just be, like I said, be morphed into the WEW tag team titles. And then also on this show, before the main event, Kodo Fuyuki would come out in his suit and tie and everything, and he would announce that he wants Hayabusa to come out. And so Hayabusa comes out, and he goes, I don't want any superheroes in my FMW, so I am stripping you of the Hayabusa gimmick. You are no longer allowed to be Hayabusa after August 25th. And so I'm getting rid of, I don't want this mask identity of you anymore. You're just going to be Eiji Izaki now going forward. And so Hayabusa rushes into the ring and is all upset and everything with Fuyuki and Arai. Again, Arai is pretty much is the owner of FMW, so he gets to make these. He has given Fuyuki the right to make all these decisions and everything. So it's announced that Hayabusa is going to be dropping the mask in August. And then the main event is Hayabusa, Masato Tanaka, and Tetsuhiro Kuroda defeating Mr. Ganosuke, Yukihiro Kanamura, and Hito in a scramble ladder dog food match. And what that is essentially there's just a ladder in the match, and the loser has to eat dog food. And in this match, again, Hayabusa had just been announced that he wasn't going to be doing the mask, so you're thinking he's not going to do these high-flying moves going forward. And he's thinking, he's not going to be doing these high-flying moves really that much going forward. So he's wants to go all out, and he does a moonsault off a ladder during this match, and pins Hito. And so the FMW team gets the win. And so now, due to the stipulations, Kodo Fuyuki has to eat dog food, and so Fuyuki takes the wet dog food and puts it in his mouth, and he starts chewing on it. And then he spits it right in Hayabusa's face. And then that results in this giant brawl. And before the match, there was all this dry dog food around the ring and everything, and so both teams end up taking the dry dog food and throwing it all around. So dry dog food is all over the ring. This big brawl with dog food going all over the place. So again, this is Fuyuki's FMW. It's going to have these wacky kind of storylines or wacky gimmick matches that you don't really see otherwise.
Is there any worry that by not living up to the stipulations of these matches, attendance is already down. There's no worry that they're going to keep on driving fans away from the company?
No, I mean I wouldn't personally consider this, not following on the stipulation. I mean, Fuyuki put dog food in his mouth. I don't think anybody didn't, stop going to an FMW show because Fuyuki didn't swallow the dog food or anything like that. So now as far as, just the style and, these gimmicks and storylines, that's a different story. But I think as far as, not following up on something, going forward, they wouldn't follow up on retirement angles and everything like that. Now that's another issue. But as far as this, I don't think this would be considered, not following up on the stipulation. He did put dog food in his mouth. It's, I wouldn't do that.
Well, in my head, he shouldn't get any heat back. He should eat it, and I just have a different idea of how to carry out those types of stipulations, I guess. As far as the mask goes, was there where did it come from that they wanted to take the mask off of him?
Yeah, so he went to the office and he's like, Hayabusa went to the office and was like, I can't do this anymore. My elbows are killing me. I'm doing these firebirds. I have to do a firebird splash or something high flying. Hayabusa equals high flying. And so I have to do high flying moves. And I just can't do them anymore. My, just doing these, these high flying moves, landing on my arms and my elbows every day. It's just, they're killing me. And his elbows and his knees were also hurting really bad also. So he's just feeling in bad shape, and he doesn't want to do the high flying moves anymore because they're hurting so much and he's in such pain. But you can't be Hayabusa without the high flying moves. So he goes to the office and says, I don't want to be Hayabusa anymore. So it was his idea to drop the gimmick. And so they go, okay, going forward, we'll come up, we'll have an angle where to get Fuyuki the heat and everything, he's eliminating the gimmick. And, we announced that you're just going to be Eiji Izaki. And, but then Hayabusa comes up with his own gimmick that we'll go over next episode. He comes up with his own gimmick to be completely different than Hayabusa. But, it obviously, it didn't work out because everyone still considers him Hayabusa. So but at this time, he just didn't want to do the gimmick anymore.
Okay, we're going to wrap up on just a couple Onita notes. Onita, he was involved in a couple shows. On June 20th, there was a show with War, and on June 27th, he had an Onita Pro show. If you want to go over those two shows real quickly.
So War ran their anniversary show on June 20th, and again, this was just Onita and Tenryu having a working relationship with one another. And so Tenryu, Nobutaku Arai, who was a former wing guy who had joined War, and Shoji Nakamaki, they defeated Atsushi Onita, Shigeo Okamura, and Sambo Asako in a street fight tornado match. And Tenryu pinned Okamura with a lariat. This drew about 2,100, so that means it was a sellout, but it was pretty, a decent house and everything. And just going back also to the FMW show, that June 15th show announced 2,100. So again, it's a success, but not a super success that's what I've always taken when studying these numbers back in the 90s or so. That's how I took these numbers. 2,150 was a sellout. Great number, which probably means a legitimate near sellout even. But like I said, so this was the June 20th War show. This was pretty much the last War show for the following year, for the next year. So Tenryu ended up pretty much dropping War after this. He held one more show for War a year later, and then that was pretty much it. So War is pretty much coming to an end at this point officially. And then the following week, Onita had his own show on June 27th, and that was a sellout announced 2150. And again, these Onita shows are doing really well, and these are very passionate Onita fans and everything, staying with him. And afterwards, he's starting to create this this routine where he's going outside Corrigan Hall on the staircase that's outside Corrigan Hall, and all these fans are outside or like near the Tokyo Dome level on the first floor, and they're all watching Onita cut a promo like he was like high atop the kingdom, and Onita's doing these promos and everything while all the fans are going crazy from below. It's a really cool scene that he did for a couple of years. But for this show, this was a barbed wire street fight, double hell death match, and it was Onita, Shigeo Okamura, Sambo Asako, and Mitsunobu Kikuzawa, who's probably best known as Kikutaro now. They defeated Tenryu, Shoji Nakagawa, Ichiro Yaguchi, and Hiroshi Ono, who's probably best known for the IWA Japan time in like '95 or so. So this is just the typical Onita double hell death match, barbed wire and everything like that. And again, it's just Onita and Tenryu. Neither one of them are going to lose to each other. They're going to have they're going to have a fall guy for these matches and everything. They're going to trade team wins, and that's all this was just to just trade wins. And they pretty much that was their relationship at this point. Was just you win, your team wins one match, and then my team will win another match, and we just try and make as much money as possible. And with these matches as Onita versus Tenryu, even though they're tag matches, and neither one of us are losing to one another.
As we finish up, going into the next episode, what matches are on Onita's schedule for the next couple months?
Yeah, so the next show he's going to have in August, he's going to take on Tenryu again, and this is going to be an exploding barbed wire match in August. It's going to be a big outdoor stadium show. And again, it's just going to be one of those Onita, Sambo Asako, Mitsunobu Kikuzawa, these low-pay guys. Senshiro Takagi, who's the DDT owner, he's pretty well known for his DDT, being the president of DDT now. And Tenryu, they're going to take on Tenryu, Shoji Nakamaki, Ichiro Yaguchi, and Hiroshi Ono. Like I said, and no ropes exploding barbed wire match. And after that, that's going to be the end of Onita and Tenryu as opponents. I think they work together, and Onita's going to start teaming up with Tenryu, and they're going to take on Mr. Pogo. Mr. Onita and Mr. Pogo going to start up their feud again in late '99 and everything. And it's just going to be Onita's idea of 1994 FMW is still the type of this still draws, and this it might be a nostalgia, but I mean I'm still the champ, so. Or I'm still the top guy, so it's what he wants. It's what he wants to do. So.
And okay, and I just want to end this. I kind of know the answer to this, but if you want to give your kind of commentary on the Onita and FMW split, and who were the big winners in 1999 going forward, and do you think it was good for both of them to kind of separate?
Yeah, it needed to happen. Personally, I mean, it was and going forward, FMW is. I mean, we'll talk about it next episode. But FMW books a Yokohama Arena show that 16,000 seat stadium, or sorry, 16,000 seat arena and everything, and so they they take the hit. But I feel like they needed to get away from Onita if they were going to be this entertainment pro wrestling promotion and everything. And I mean, okay, if you were going to keep Onita the way they were doing it, it just wasn't going to work with Hayabusa and Onita. It's just too much political. I want to be a top guy. I want to be a top guy. I mean, if you were going to have to push, you're going to have to put Onita back on top and everything, and then have these Onita matches that are not as good as they were 5 years ago, and they weren't even necessarily that good. And it's kind of Onita can draw on this nostalgia, but I don't know how much he was, he wasn't even a proven draw with under FMW. He could probably draw Corrigan, sell out Corrigan. I mean, he's showing he could still sell out Corrigan under his name and everything. But, it was just one of those, like, they wanted to be more than just a sellout of Corrigan. They wanted to have bigger shows. They wanted to run FMW wanted to run the Yokohama Arena and everything. And just with all the politics and everything. And, I mean, they weren't, just something had to change. and it just had to be, and you had to also understand Onita was being a jerk and everything to them, and they were sick of Onita, at this point. And so it was just kind of like a bad marriage, and they just felt like they needed to separate. And, as far as, who won, I mean, Onita had a great 1999 as far as making money, reestablishing his name and everything. But as and like I said, he made a lot of money. He had a lot of dream matches and everything. But I mean, and we'll go into it later, Onita still wants to go back to FMW. He asked several times. He wants to go back to FMW. FMW is the one, turning him down, going, we don't want you. We don't want you back and everything. So, I mean, if Onita did win, again, it's who won the divorce. I don't think, really, there were positives and there were negatives as a result. And, I mean, it was a relationship that needed to end. But, I mean, both probably did suffer as a result. But, hey, they might have had it was also needed because they might they were suffering with each other also.
All right. Well, with that, we will wrap up the first half of 1999. Before we go, do you have any news about what's going on at the moment? We're recording, just so people know, we're recording June 26, 2018. You'll be leaving for Japan soon. So if you want to let people know what's going on in the current stuff.
Pretty much the only thing right now is just, like I mentioned last episode, they're going to have a Mr. Pogo Memorial Show. I'm actually going to be missing that by like 1 day or so when I get in. They've announced they're going to run Shinkiba, and pretty much the main event is going to be a FMW versus Wing match. Masato Tanaka, Tetsuhiro Kuroda taking on Magnitude Kishawada and Hideki Osaka in a scramble bunkhouse street fight death match. Kentaro Kanemaru is Kanemaru's going to be on the show also, just there and everything. And then Kanemaru is also going to be promoting his IWNG show at Shinjuku Face, and they've announced the card there. The main event's going to be Jun Kasai and Yuji Hino against Mema Sasaki, and Hideki Osaki in a hardcore match. There's going to be Onryo is going to be on the show. Yuko Miyamoto is going to be on the show. It's Kuroda. So it's a bunch of Kanemaru's friends are going to be on the show and everything. And like I said, that's a rock concert also, as well as a wrestling show. And then Super Leather is also going to be returning in September for Kanemaru's promotion.
Awesome. Well, with that, if you want to let people know, where can people find you? BahuFMW.com, news updates, pictures, everything like that, biographies. And then I'm on Twitter at BahuFMW. I just post a lot of just pretty much just any news updates or anything like breaking news, or if I just see a random picture, I'll post that. And then Instagram, BahuFMW World, that I post a whole bunch of pictures of just random magazine FMW pictures from old magazines and everything. And I'll also, like we mentioned, I'll be going to Japan, so I'll be posting a whole bunch of pictures from my Japan trip, wrestling and non-wrestling related, over the next couple days also. And then also on YouTube, Brett FMW, where I do music videos. I'm going to be having a Mitsuhiro Matsunaga video come out soon. And then also I put these podcasts to video to cover what we're talking about and everything. And I have the first 10 episodes right now up. I just posted the 10th episode, late 93. I posted that yesterday. There's 6 episodes I still need to do, backdate episodes, and then I have the latest 4 episodes from 97, 98 up as well. Awesome. Well, all right. With that, we will take it home, and we'll be back next next time with the second half of 1999. And thank you guys so much for tuning in. So we will see you guys later.